Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally and we're looking at the March broadcasting. Yes, we haven't actually had a real broadcasting in a while because we had the annual meeting, the Gilead graduation, so it feels like we haven't had new fresh content come out of Watchtower, broadcasting.org, whatever you want to call it. So it feels good to get back into the saddle and away from some of the drama. So I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Please drop a like on the video. You'd be surprised at how much it helps the video get out to more people on YouTube. So I very much appreciate it. I think the work that I'm trying to do is important, and the more people it reaches, the better it is. So I'm here, ZZ's here, we got bougie water, I grabbed an orange because I haven't eaten today, and it's already almost 1 o'clock, but that's okay because I'm here for you, the people. With all of that being said, finger guns.
There's no doubt that we're living in critical times, hard to deal with, just as the Apostle Paul prophesied under inspiration in 2 Timothy chapter 3.
Well, we have to be excited because it is our favorite classic prototypical elder voice governing body helper. You guys know the voice. Oh, times are so difficult and hard to deal with. And our brother, you guys know I like the elder voice. It's one of my favorite gags to do. And it's good to see him back, and also in a purple suit, mind you. Now, can we actually take a second to appreciate that we're not getting gray, black, or blue? It's kind of nice to see someone coming out with the Joker outfit, so that's pretty hype. Also, comment down below what you thought of the latest Batman movie, because I have my thoughts on it, and I quite enjoyed it for many different reasons. But tell me your thoughts.
Many times we've read Matthew chapter 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, and Revelation chapter 6. But who would ever have known how deeply a pandemic, so-called natural disasters, violence, and unrest would affect us economically, physically, and even emotionally?
Really tried to slip that one in there on us by calling it a so-called natural disaster.
So-called natural disasters.
Is this man honestly suggesting that the natural disasters that we see in the world are in fact caused by supernatural sources? Much like a Tootsie Pop the world may never know.
The Study Bible says this regarding the expression, the Father of Tender Mercies. The Greek noun rendered tender mercies is here used to describe a feeling of compassion or pity for others. God is called the Father, or the source of tender mercies, because compassion emanates from him and is part of his nature. Such tender feelings move him to act mercifully in behalf of his faithful servants who are suffering tribulation.
I'm sorry, bucko, but I cannot take you seriously when you're talking about tender mercies and the pain and suffering that witnesses are going through when you are the one causing it. You're literally adding to the general burden of life, and let's not be too funny about it. Life is very hard for a lot of people, more difficult for others. But when you are part of the problem and you're sitting here and talking about the God of mercy, what are people that are active Jehovah's Witnesses thinking to themselves? They associate God, the entity they believe in that comforts them, with the organization. God cannot exist without the organization in certain respects, because people look to Watchtower as the channel of information, and as that channel, they're the ones that are providing this comfort and this mercy. No, they absolutely are not. They're adding to the burden. They're making it worse with their hypocrisy, with their policies, with their practices of shunning people and making people's lives generally more difficult. I can't sit here and just be like, oh, well, let's just all cozy up with a blanket by the fireplace and wonder, how is God going to extend this comfort and mercy despite the difficult circumstance we're facing? I think it's very silly that he doesn't recognize this kind of simple problem. So let us see how exactly he is going to describe how Jehovah is using Watchtower to provide this tender love and fatherly-like comfort to Jehovah's Witnesses.
Regarding the phrase, the God of all comfort, it continues. The Greek noun here rendered comfort literally means a calling to one's side. It conveys the idea of standing next to a person, helping or encouraging him when he's undergoing trials or feeling sad. God uses his powerful active force to give comfort and help in situations that from a human viewpoint seem hopeless. Think about what that means. Jehovah wants us to know that whatever we face, he is by our side, helping us when we're undergoing any sort of trial. No, he did not promise that he'd remove our trials. Rather, he eases our misery or grief whenever we undergo difficulties. What a beautiful word picture of God standing next to us, especially when things seem hopeless.
I don't know exactly why they just show a picture of a guy sitting down with very warm lights on his face, cascading across his face, as it were, reading the old silver sword. I don't know why that was relevant, but it was pretty funny that it popped into frame. And as someone that enjoys random pictures popping into frame, but generally I there's a purpose, there's a reason behind it, because, you know, it makes people laugh or something. But again, just to the point that I made initially. Sorry, I don't know why I'm stuttering with my words today. But to the point I was making before, it's annoying at the very least and infuriating at the most when you understand the full dynamic of Jehovah's Witnesses and their relationship with Watchtower, and hearing him talking about, you know, this comfort that's provided. And for people that are watching this that are believers, and that do feel a genuine sense of comfort because of their relationship to a deity, this would be insulting to me anyway. I don't need an organization to feel this comfort or this, you know, connection that I have with my spiritual sense. I mean, I'm not a religious person myself. I'm not a spiritual person myself, but I can fully imagine that if I was someone like that, and I have an organization that's literally getting in the way of my spirituality, telling me how God comforts me, and then inhibits in some way my ability to have that connection with the God I want to worship, it would be annoying, like I said, annoying at best and infuriating at worst.
We invite you to do a personal study project. Using the publication Research Guide for Jehovah's Witnesses or the Watchtower Online Library, do a word search on comfort. You'll be drawn even closer to Jehovah and appreciate his unmatched desire and ability to comfort.
Why on God's green earth do they have like the full screen that's like Trost, and it's maybe like German or Dutch or something like that, and then on the little phone it's in English? It just seems very odd. Like, why? And like, if you're saying do a search on this subject, well, why don't you show that as like the thing on the screen instead of, I mean, like, I can look back here, but oh, here it is. You know, do a search on X, and yet you're showing a different search on the screen. It's very confusing. And like the one that they have for Watchtower Online Library. Well, maybe you should put that one as the Wachtum Online Bibliothek versus, Watchtower Online Library. Anyway, I just think that's kind of goofy. But you know what? Watchtower's goofy, and that's why we're here. We're here to have a good old smile.
The greatest expression of hope to us humans is Jesus' ransom sacrifice. Through his inspired word, we can see that Jehovah assures us that he not only understands what we face, but also desires to console and strengthens us. Our loving Heavenly Father especially watches over all who endeavor to do his will, but in all of his mercy, he also draws humble people who may not yet know him.
So I skipped over a fairly large portion of this talk because it was properly unremarkable and there was really nothing to talk about, and this guy giving a talk is basically just a total sleeper. So if you are looking to listen to this video in order to fall asleep, then I suggest you turn it off, go to JW Broadcasting, and watch this guy talk, because you will absolutely be able to fall asleep to it. But I did find it interesting how he mentions that this greatest expression of comfort and everything is coming from Jesus, and he's particularly interested in comforting the people that do his will. Now, I, as someone on the outside of this equation, am looking at hundreds of thousands of different varieties of his will. And to say that, well, that's how he primarily comforts us, is by, or the main people he comforts is those who do his will. Now, to a Jehovah's Witness, this is going to mean one singular thing, because they think they're the only true religion. But to someone like me looking on the outside, it's like that statement is kind of goofy, because wow, there are a lot of different people, and no one can really seem to come to a consensus about exactly what God's will is. And I guess I'll just leave that to, people that, believe, which is fine if that's what you want to do. And once all believers can come to a consensus, then I guess we could, dive into this a little bit deeper. But I just thought that point was funny, and I needed to say something because I had cut so much out. So here we are.
How many of us were in dire straits only to be introduced to the truth and to get to know Jehovah at the right time? That was no coincidence. That's a consequence of Jehovah's love and his desire to give people comfort through the hope he provides. Dear brothers and sisters, as we get closer to the Great Tribulation, we will face more distressing circumstances, and during the Great Tribulation, our trust in Jehovah must be solid. We need to be sensitive and receptive to the ways in which he consoles and strengthens us. We need to keep in mind what Paul says at 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 4, perhaps even memorizing it. Jehovah is a God who comforts us in all our trials.
I think we can all agree that the person that comforts us through all of our trials is right here. He is the real comforter of our trials. Sorry if the microphone was a little bit low. I didn't realize that I had adjusted a few settings because I was working on something different earlier, and the settings got a little bit scuffed. So sorry about that. Anyway, let's move right along.
Some time ago, we interviewed two longtime members of the United States Bethel family. Brother Gerald Grizzle, a helper to the Personnel Committee, and Brother Sam Robertson. These two brothers served as traveling overseers for many years prior to coming to Bethel. Brother Grizzle has served at Bethel since 1978, and Brother Robertson has served here for nearly 20 years. They've been assigned by the governing body to assist them in shepherding the United States Bethel family. Shepherding the Bethel family, you may ask? After all, Bethelites don't have any distressing trials. Listen to what our dear brothers have to say.
It is often remarkable whenever they interview someone that's been serving full time, Bethel, whatever it might be, traveling work, whatever, since the before I was alive. Before I was alive, and these people have been serving in these positions full time, and it just always saddens me because I always come back to the same thing of it's a wasted life. It's a wasted opportunity. This person or whoever they're about to interview, these people, they have given so much time and energy and thinking to the organization, and it's amounted to nothing. So I always just kind of think, man, if these people were out there, using that same drive to really help people, to really, try and bolster their community by the things they did and said, how great that would be. But instead, they were at Bethel. They were printing magazines that eventually would become obsolete. ZZ, we all really much appreciate that you want to clean your leg at this exact moment. Thank you so much. It's very helpful. Anyway, it reminds me of my dad's cousin who went to Bethel at 19 years old and has been there ever since. And I don't think up until this point, unless something has changed, he's ever been married. He's ever dated anyone. He's just been a single Bethelite for the last 30 years now, since I think he was in Bethel before I was born. So it's really quite astonishing that, there are people, and you might know people, I know people that have been there their entire lives. They spent the entirety of their life in Bethel. And that's not to really comment on how once they're done with you, they can feel free to just ship you off like, well, here's your new assignment to go to a congregation. Enjoy being in the workforce, bud. I don't know.
Brother Grizzle, what are some of the challenges that members of the Bethel family face?
The worldwide Bethel family is a representation of the brotherhood. By that, I mean that just as 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 9 says, they face the same kind of sufferings being experienced by the entire association of our brothers in the world. Some deal with the serious health problems, but they continue to serve. Others have concerns over aging parents, and some have to give up their beloved Bethel service. Still, others contend with bouts of depression. But the spirit of these dear brothers and sisters impels them to have the determination not to allow these challenges to dominate them. Rather, their faith in Jehovah strengthens their resolve to focus on their assignments.
Thank you for that insight, Brother Grizzle. Brother Robertson, how have you been able to comfort such ones?
When we find out a Bethelite is going through a tragedy, there are 4 things that we do. Number 1, we pray for them and develop specific spiritual points according to their needs. And that's before we make the call. Number 2, when we actually make the call, we really listen. And I don't mean we just listen with our ears. We try to listen with our hearts. We try to feel what they feel. We try to have compassion. Number 3, when we use God's word to remind them they're not facing their crisis alone, this is very effective. As an example, we called on a brother recently who was going through a great trial, and we shared, among other things, Exodus chapter 3 and verse 7 and 12. Let's take a look at that. I have certainly seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and I've heard their outcry because of those who forced them to work. And note the ending point here. It's very beautiful. Jehovah doesn't say, I know how my people feel. He says, I well know the pains of my people. And then in giving assurance, dealing with Moses fearing to go before Pharaoh, in verse 12, just the A part, to this he said, I will prove to be with you.
I don't doubt these two brothers' sincerity and their assignment and the things they're saying and doing. But it just saddens me that, across the entire world, there's all of these Bethelites and people serving full time. They've given up their careers, they've given up their families, they've given up their ambitions, and they've said, I want to work for Watchtower. And once they go through a trying time, after they sacrifice their lives, what does Watchtower provide for them by way of support? What does Watchtower do? They read them some scriptures. They have the resources to provide them with the best care, whether it be mentally or physically or otherwise. They could, if they so chose, spend their money in getting licensed professional therapists to help people deal with whatever circumstances that they're going through. And yet they would rather build a new movie set, or they would rather pay a law firm to try and draw out these long legal battles so that way they can not have to answer for their crimes against humanity. They would rather spend their resources or dedicate their resources to those causes rather than supporting the people that literally you built your organization on the backs of these people. Don't fool yourself to thinking, I'm talking to Watchtower now, but don't fool yourself to thinking that you could have built, what is this Watchtower organization without the volunteers that were part of it. And to know that you are just coming out, again, I don't doubt the sincerity of these two people, but knowing that you're coming out and just giving them a wet fart and reading them a scripture they've read a million times before, essentially doing nothing for them in their darkest hour, it really makes me annoyed. As my brother, for instance, he put in, what was it, like 4 or 5 years at Bethel, in his early 20s. He went to go and work in Louisiana after the Hurricane Katrina. And he went straight from there and did other building projects, and then went from there to do temporary service at Bethel, came home for a bit, came back to Bethel, basically used his early 20s to work for Watchtower for free. And when he got married and all of his overseers said, oh yeah, there's only 2 guys in your department. Absolutely. You and your wife will get to stay at Bethel, because that's all he really wanted. They said, no, nah. Sorry, big guy, but you're going to have to go home and figure it out. And he came home and figured it out, and his wife's grandpa let them borrow their RV, which they parked on the basketball court at my parents' house. And that's where they lived, so they could save up some money before they could, have their own place. Thanks, Watchtower. I gave my early 20s, the best years of my life, to you. And now that I got married, I'm living in an RV on my parents' basketball court. Thank you, Watchtower. I very much appreciate the support that you provided for me. And I really, really needed you to read me this random scripture in Exodus. Kind of gets me annoyed. Not very many things get me annoyed, though, as you guys clearly know. Also, do you guys like not wearing glasses? I know I normally have the glasses. It's part of my my overall look, but I've been doing the contacts a little bit more lately because it's easier for lighting. So comment down below if you like the glasses and if you want them to come back, or if you think I should keep them off, then that too. That was a horrible way to make you comment. Comment, just say hey Wally. That's fine. Just say hey Wally. Hi Wally. This is so scuffed.
Just a few words, but so powerful, where Jehovah is guaranteeing that he's going to give them undeniable proof that he's backing them up and never moving away from them 1 inch. And this gives us comfort. Now, number 4, before we conclude the call, we have an ending prayer with them, and we use their names. And this is very comforting since we're calling on Jehovah, the great shepherd. At 1 Thessalonians 5:14, Paul says, "We urge you, brothers, to speak consolingly to those who are depressed, to support the weak, be patient toward all." And this is exactly what we're trying to do.
Thanks for sharing those thoughts. Very interesting. Brothers Grizzle and Robertson, how has comforting others affected you? Brother Grizzle first, please.
During these challenging times, I sense Jehovah's love for his people. Over the years, I have seen and experienced his care when facing difficult times. Some years ago, I lost my mother, my brother, and my father in death, all within a year. And in 2017, I lost my dear wife, Bonnie, after we had served Jehovah together for nearly 65 years. But with much prayer, research, and love of the friends, Jehovah has comforted me. And now, thankfully, I have been able to offer encouragement to others.
Very touching, Brother Grizzle. Thank you. Brother Robertson, how has comforting others affected you?
One of the most memorable challenges was while my wife Linda and I were in the circuit work several years ago. I lost my voice. I had to have surgery on my vocal cords, and for 6 weeks, I could not talk. For a circuit overseer, that's like being a bird without its wings. I wrote more notes in that 6 weeks than I had written in my whole life. But in spite of that, and along with other situations and tragedies that we face similar to Gerald's, Jehovah has seen us through them all. And let me say, it's been a real pleasure to share Jehovah's comfort with so many. And as we do, we see the governing body's interest in all of Jehovah's people, including those with added responsibility. They truly reflect Jehovah's feelings as the God of all comfort.
At first, I wasn't even going to include this clip in here, but I just thought that, the build up to the, challenges and struggles of life that these two men have dealt with, health issues, loss of people you care about, and how difficult that can be. Obviously, they're trying to use this as a way of saying, look how much comfort and things we receive in the organization. But then I guess it's like the new meta of JW broadcasting. It's their new thing they like to do most, and that is specifically mentioning the governing body in these circumstances. It's gone beyond, oh, look at this comfort we get from Jehovah, and it's now become the governing body. And they obviously do mention Jehovah, but at the same time and in the same conversation, it's the governing body reflects this. Why are they doing this? I don't get it. What is there to gain by praising the governing body now? Have they just completely devolved into self-congratulatory like tropes now? What is this? The history of Watchtower was always, trying to make it all about this is God's organization. Now it seems they're very clearly saying this is the governing body's organization. Praise be to the governing body. It's very odd, and I can't, in my sort of caveman brain, work out why they're taking this route. It doesn't seem like they'll gain anything, but it'll make a lot of people say, why are they, what? That's kind of tacky and off-putting that they're just always talking about the governing body like this now. Very strange. Also, sorry if you can hear the rain outside, but it's raining quite hard, but I like the rain. I'm a big fan. I hate the sun. It's radiation that wants to kill you, so why would I like the sun? So I like the rain because it brings things to life. So I decided to open the window back up so I could hear it. So anyway, if you can hear it, my apologies, but the new microphone setup should absolutely mitigate all rain droplets.
The governing body has instituted similar shepherding arrangements in branch offices around the world. Now we want to talk to some of you in our audience. Because of stresses, disappointments, and hurt feelings caused by fellow believers, some have strayed from Jehovah's organization. Others may have been removed from the congregation, but now would like to return. To you we say, allow Jehovah to comfort and strengthen you. He wants you to draw close to him, and he will help you.
Well, as a big fan of slow zooming, I gotta appreciate this clip in particular. But, interesting how they, again, at the very beginning, talking about the governing body, but then when it comes to the stresses and the disappointments and the issues you'd have with other people in the congregation, that's probably why you've, left the organization or sort of pulled back. That's generally what happens, right? It could have nothing to do with the governing body. Amazing how they're so quick to praise, and it's like, maybe you had an issue with something they said. Maybe you found the JW broadcasting ridiculous and an absolute waste of time and resources. Maybe you found that the governing body exposing themselves to the world kind of was like, wait, these are our leaders? But no, it could only be someone else in the congregation that hurt your feelings, and that's the reason. Thanks, we really needed that in our lives.
I was born in Congo. My family and I, we had to flee. There was a war going on. One thing I remember is the bombs and the shootings that were behind us as we're running. You hear people screaming too. Each day we live, each step we took, we knew that something was gonna happen to our lives. We never knew if we were gonna survive. My mom and I were the only one who survived. And that was one of the reasons we had to go to Rwanda. As someone who were raised in the refugee camp, I can tell you that the life in the camp was not easy. The hardest part was just seeing people facing hunger. And since I never had a big brother to support me, all these kids would come and beat me up, hitting me. I just felt like I was a victim. Even though there was all this sadness, I knew there was God out there who cares for people. So what I did was I started praying to God. Then I started going to the Catholic Church to look for him. At the age of 7, I saw these 2 women, because I came to learn that they were witnesses, Jehovah's Witnesses. I was so inspired by their smile. And these women had like the Bible in their hands, and the track they gave me was about paradise. Now, knowing that there's a hope for the future, there's something good coming, knowing that there's a meaning of life. This brought me so much joy. Then I met this kid who had witnessed his book. As I opened the book, there was a scripture from Exodus chapter 20, verse 4. And in that verse, it shows you must not worship any other gods. When I read these words, I was so shocked. I was so shocked. And more than I was so disappointed of myself, because now I know that I was doing something wrong. I was not worshiping the true God. From there on, I left the Catholic Church. I pray for the strength to go and to look for Jehovah's Witnesses, to look for the kingdom hall. Then later, I went to the meeting. I went to my first meeting. The unity among God's people, that really touched me. And then after that, everybody came and hugged me, showed me this love I never seen before. And more than that, I went home knowing God's name is Jehovah. This name was so special. This name was just like full of strength and spirit. The moment I started using Jehovah's name, the moment I started praying to Jehovah, he became so real to me. He became my big brother. He became more than a big brother, because when I prayed the first time in Jehovah's name, that day, like all those kids who were beating me, who were hitting me up, now wanted to be my friend. And this was the day after I went to my first meeting.
This is, I suppose, the ultimate struggle that we face at times. Is you see stories like this, and you see someone that I don't think we can really deny it that much, and maybe we can, and I'm just not thinking about it clearly, but you see situations where we can say this person benefited from their association with Watchtower, at least in this very specific instance. Yes, they're preying on the vulnerable. Yes, they're targeting people that are at a low point. Yes, this person is filling in the gaps. Like, he wanted a big brother and he needed that support, and bang, he got it from Watchtower. And clearly it's affected him, and he feels at home now. But the big conjunction here is, do we value truth over what makes us cozy and comfortable? Are we going to live an honest life, or are we going to live a comfortable life? And people that might say, well, why are you making videos and doing this? Well, the biggest reason I make videos is for people that come out of the organization. They're the main audience, and they enjoy having a bit of a laugh. And for some reason, people laugh when I'm talking. I don't get it, but whatever. It's anyway. I guess that would be my response to anyone that says, well, why are you doing this? Look at this guy. He's clearly benefited from his association with Watchtower. It can't be that bad. I think truth is more important than our own comfort. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe at the end of the day, we want to be delusional, and we just want to, eat our Hot Pockets and pretend like they're good for us. I don't know. I would just personally rather know what's good for me and then make my decision accordingly. And I would rather make choices based off of information and not based off of feelings. But anyway, maybe that was a really weird side rant to go off of, but a million things to talk about in this short clip, but that's the thing I chose. So whatever you wanted to talk about, comment down below. I should just do this throughout the whole video. Just randomly say, comment down below. But it is fun to actually, hear from you guys.
Really, Jehovah put a wall between my enemies. Jehovah became my rescuer in that moment. And right here, I knew this is my God. And I was determined to never leave him. I was determined to serve him my whole life.
So I think this ending really is indicative of just how unhealthy this mindset is, because let's just imagine for a second that this story is, real and accurate, and this actually, happened, and this, someone, an entity, whatever you want it to be, does interfere with your enemies, and it was like a wall, and they rescued you. Okay, so does that mean that that is deserving of a lifetime of worship? Because a friend gets you a gift one time, is that deserving of a lifetime of friendship? Well, what if they betray your trust? If someone gets me a gift one year, and then the next year I find out they slept with my wife, I'm going to be kind of pissed off, and I don't think we're going to be friends anymore, right? So this whole idea that, I had this experience and this brought me into the organization. And because I said, well, you know what? You are my God. You are my friend. Therefore, I will never leave you. I think it just kind of demonstrates how unhealthy Jehovah's Witnesses are in their general outlook on life and their mindset, because it's so, now that I'm a witness, I'm here for life.
Lakita worked for the city of Virginia Beach. With the city, she was able to get a schedule that allowed her to focus on her ministry. I came home on a Friday. Both my mother and I had doctor appointments that day. And we came home and sat down, getting ready to fix us a bite of lunch. And I got a phone call. It was a family member, and they were asking me if I had saw the news. I immediately tried to call my daughter's phone, and it went straight to voicemail. So I said, well, let me try texting her. So I tried texting her, and I didn't get any response. It was about 10:30 that night when we just finally got the confirmation that we had indeed lost her in that shooting. So, yeah. And I would say that's the worst day of my life.
Well, the sun decided that it wanted to come out, so I guess that's why I don't record in the mornings. But anyway, it'll go away shortly enough. It's Seattle. It's always cloudy here, right? Anywho, I can honestly say that this is the first time since I was an active Jehovah's Witness that I think I've teared up listening to one of their stories. Normally we get these non-stories, right? Of, they need to move. They have the dramatic music playing and they try and picture it or paint it as this really serious event because they couldn't get sand delivered somewhere, or they were having difficulty finding the wood to complete a building, and then someone donated some wood, and then that's the big dramatic reveal. But my God, how horrible this is. So I guess we'll see how Watchtower decided to comfort her, but absolutely, your heart just goes out to this poor family. It's such a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. Ugh, I can't even imagine. I can imagine because I'm currently doing that. What if someone you cared about and you call and you get the voicemail and you see the stories in the news?
The next day, starting at 7 o'clock in the morning, friends started pouring in. And we had people in the home to support us, encourage us from morning to night. And it meant so much. It helped us to focus on something else at the time. The love that they showed to us, it was just astounding. It was just so amazing. And that's what helped us to get through it all. It was our family, our spiritual family.
And again, we have another scenario of, people, regular old human beings that were the ones comforting their friend. Their friend went through something absolutely horrific, and their friends, were compelled to be there for them. This has absolutely nothing to do with Watchtower. And whenever they use these stories, they use someone's personal tragedy. They use their worst day ever, as she says, for their own emotional manipulation. It's so tacky, disgusting, and infuriating. Oh, one other thing I just noticed was that little box that popped up, like her fellow believers, Jehovah's Witnesses, were there to support and comfort her. I'm like, well, if this is targeted at witnesses, why was that box in there? Like, if I'm a Jehovah's Witness watching that and it says her fellow believers, Jehovah's Witness, like, I already know that is what they're getting at here. So I don't know if this was some type of like media piece that they put together. Maybe that's not the right assumption, but I'm guessing that this is some sort of like media. I really just need to close these blinds, don't I? Well, we're in for a penny, in for a pound, but I could only assume that maybe they're using this woman's story as like a media piece. And if anyone out there knows if her story was told like on a news station or something, please let me know, because I guess that would be kind of interesting to find out.
The city of Virginia Beach, they volunteered to take care of all of the victims' arrangements. And because of that amount of people, the venue that they decided upon, it was the Opera House in Norfolk. The brothers, they got everything together. The city didn't really have to do anything. They just gave us the venue. And what really impressed them, the city, was that the whole memorial, everything took place within an hour. The city officials were there in attendance. You had the local newspapers who covered it, reporters. The reporters were persistent in wanting to talk. And so actually two of my brothers, they handled all of that information with the guidance from those two brothers who came down. It kept us from having to even worry about that,
So this is the point I made early on, and that is Watchtower doesn't do what they could in supporting and comforting people as they're suggesting. So the city had this opportunity where they were able to support victims. So they said, hey, we'll take care of all of the arrangements for you. This isn't something that I suppose they have to do. I don't know the exact details of the situation, but they want to be supportive of someone that's undergone an absolutely horrible tragedy. And then you have Watchtower, who's saying, yes, we like to come and, support and comfort those that have gone through a horrible tragedy. Well, what do? Well, they send a couple of branch representatives, or at least that sounds like what she was saying, to talk to the media. I think that's what she was suggesting there. Said some brothers that came down and handled all of that. So that was their contribution. And then the rest of it is just, Jehovah's Witnesses, her friends, her family, people in her congregation, just being good people. And we definitely have an answer to the question of whether or not this was put together specifically for media, I suppose. So I guess that question is put to bed. But how messed up is it? How totally outrageous that Watchtower is in a position to be supportive and to offer, I don't know, let's say one of the assembly halls. I guess I could, maybe I will look up and see. I don't know exactly where this is, but I can probably work it out here. Give me like 5 minutes and I'll put this together real fast. Okay, now that my 5 minutes of searching is over, the only thing I was really able to find is there is an assembly hall about an hour and a half away from this opera house. So that is a fairly significant, inconvenient distance from, I don't know their exact location, but they're in Virginia Beach and the other one is in Richmond. So that could have been the case. The point is absolutely the same. Watchtower is in a position to do more than they are. All they're doing is nothing. It's individual people that are being supportive. It's her friends and family that are making sure she's well and taken care of. Now, Watchtower could offer themselves to, hey, we'll pay for a caterer. Hey, we'll pay for the flowers. No, if that was done, it would be on the congregation level, and the congregation, the individuals within it, would, cover that. And it just makes me so irritated that they can, treat this woman who's a victim of just a horrible event, and they can treat her like a circus animal. Okay, time for your time in the spotlight. Time for your time. Time to go on the spotlight, and you can be on the broadcasting and tell your story and blah, 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 blah. And she probably views that as a privilege, and it's just so poor taste that Watchtower has the ability to do more for their people, and yet they just don't. And at the end of the day, when you ask, well, why don't they do more for their people? They don't care. They don't care to that depth. They don't have that drive. When you're passionate about something, it will motivate you to do more, like her friends and family are doing. Where's Watchtower's passion? Where's their emotion? Where's their drive to do more, despite being in a position where they could, as demonstrated by what the city did? Hey, we're going to take care of this for you because you're a victim of a absolutely unspeakable event. Anyway. See, ZZ left because he's so annoyed, but at least you can hear him on his scratch post. Maybe you couldn't hear. I don't know what this microphone picks up.
So it was very helpful. I continue to get cards. I get texts from people, and it just encourages me. Isaiah 41:10 has become my favorite scripture. I will really hold on to you with my right hand of righteousness. Going through this, I could really feel Jehovah's hand. It's as if he was rubbing my shoulders and saying, it's going to be all right. You'll be all right. I'm going to get you through this. And he has. Each day he gets me through this. If it can happen to someone else, it can happen to me. And in this instance, it did. But that helps me to keep a perspective. and I reflect on how Jehovah is going to reverse it. That's my biggest hope, is to see Jehovah reverse the damage that has been done. He's promised it, and my faith is in the fulfillment of his promises. So I look forward to being reunited with my daughter.
So this whole idea that, this is how, the God of the universe decided he could best help. I understand the proverb of time and unforeseen circumstance, befall us all. I also understand how Watchtower claims that there is supernatural intervention that happens in the world. It's demonstrated in this broadcast itself. Earlier, whatever his name is, he says, well, these so-called natural disasters. Okay, well, if it's so-called, like if I say, well, this is a so-called orange. Okay, well, what are you suggesting? It's either an orange or it's not an orange. So if you're saying so-called, you're saying it's not an orange. Now with natural, what is the opposite of natural? Like, what's the only thing that something is not natural could be? Unnatural, supernatural. So they're fully committed to the idea that there are interventions by God in fantastic supernatural ways. And yet, when tragedy strikes, Jehovah's Witnesses have to just stand by and say, well, if it happened to someone else, it can happen to me. And shake their heads. And then you have the thing I realized is they are spending money, but not in support of this woman. They're spending money in cameras, in microphone equipment, in lighting equipment, in, I said microphone, but sound equipment, in editors, in filmers, in, probably writing out these scripts for her to say or going over with her. They are spending money, but none of it is going to her or her family. None of it's going to them. It's only going and piping into their propaganda machine. That is how Watchtower wants to spend their money, for propaganda. We need Zizi back. We need the comfort of Zizi. Zizi?
Isaiah 43:2 says, in part, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they will not flood over you. Tragic and unforeseen things can befall faithful servants of Jehovah. We may suffer terribly, but we are not destroyed. We will always belong to Jehovah, the Father of tender mercies. Jehovah is always there for us. But we all lead such busy lives. Our new music video vividly shows the blessings we receive when we make time for Jehovah.
Well, that wasn't tacky at all. Yeah, you might undergo all of these horrible, horrible events, but we all live such busy lives. Let's watch a music video now. Does he not realize just how tasteless that is? Holy.
So much to do and so few hours in a day. It's hard to steal away moments to pray, but we have got to find a way to make time for Jehovah.
It's so funny because this is literally like a skit I would put together, but instead of it being with a big smile, because that's not what actually happens, it's just absolute sadness. Man, I really wish I could go play basketball. Can't. I got to make sure I go out in service. I got to make sure I go and do this. So it's kind of funny. They've basically put together a JW Thought skit, but instead of showing how it actually happens, they're just like, yeah, I'm so happy I can't go play basketball with the boys. I'm gonna go write some letters to people with some tracks in them, and it's gonna make me happy. Yeah. Cool.
Make him part of your life. Don't let life in this world draw you away. Make time for Jehovah.
I really gotta say, I mean, if you're gonna go with bougie water, I want to see you step it up. I want to see the orange. I want to see the mint. I want to see the cucumber. I mean, did they even have ice in it? Let's go back and look. They don't even have ice in the water. Come on, guys, you can definitely step it up. If you want the bougie water, you really gotta commit. Go full all in when it comes to fancy water, because life's short. And for Jehovah's Witnesses, apparently they don't take that motto. And she's a gardener. No doubt she has some mint around. Come on, lady.
Friends grow close when words from the heart are shared. But how can we share and see that he cares?
Well, I do have to appreciate and congratulate Watchtower and demonstrating that, hey, you guys can get in the kitchen, make cookies, make dinner. It's okay. There's nothing not manly about being a wonderful chef. I like their little subtle attempts at trying to prove a larger point. And it's especially funny. Oh, maybe not funny is actually the wrong word, but it's kind of astonishing that they have this consistent inherent problem with misogyny in the organization, and this little music video is their way to pay for their crimes against humanity, is show this guy sweeping and making cookies. I think that makes up for all the damage and misogyny that they have promoted for decades.
How will we know that he's there unless we make time for Jehovah? Make him part of your life. But don't let life in this world draw you away. Make time for Jehovah. Make time to see his hand in our life. Make time to see ourselves in paradise. Let nothing get in our way. Make time.
Yes, close your eyes and fantasize about the day when you'll still have your blue shirt, your tan pants, and yet there will be an elephant walking behind you. Yes, that is what we're really looking for. We got the New World Translation, the khakis, the blue polo, but this time we have elephants. Sorry, I think that was a garbage truck going by.
Make time. Make the time. Make time for Jehovah. Make him part of your life. Don't let life in this world draw you away. Make time for Jehovah.
I never knew that Jaden Smith was learning sign language, but it is funny how they try and control their children by not allowing them to seek higher education. But they do need to learn the best education. You know, what if this kid doesn't want to learn American Sign Language? What if he wants to learn physics? I just spit on the microphone. That was gross. I think my mouth was watering after all that bougie water. And the garbage trucks are going by again. But anyway, the point remains the same. It's just interesting that it's, no, this is the education you need. Education's fine, but only Watchtower approved education. So I'm very sorry, Jaden Smith, that you won't be going to college. I don't know where they live, but man, I would really give an arm and a leg to have that sort of stargazing available to me. We could whip out the old telescope and really contemplate the size of the universe. I guess the message is it's okay to work and it's okay to have s'mores as long as you're dressing up your 3-year-old child with a messenger bag so he can go out and hand tracts to people. So s'mores are okay, but make sure earlier in the day that you forced your child to go out and knock on strangers' doors and hand them religious tracts that ask questions like, why does God allow suffering? Message received. There was one other section of the March broadcasting, but I will save that for a future video because this one's already running a bit long. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end. If you're not already, consider subscribing to the channel. We always have some fun content coming out every Wednesday and Saturday. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you. Oh, I actually do have a habanero. I guess we could do a wicked stunt. Should we do the dreaded habanero wicked stunt? Okay, I think it's time. It is time. It's been promised, and you, the people, deserved what you were promised. Give me 1 second, and I will go retrieve it from the kitchen. All right, today is the day that we tackle the habanero. Now, to be honest, I don't think I want to eat this entire thing, but I'm happy to like cut off just a bit here. So let's see. Is that enough? Oh, we probably should have worn gloves or something. Ew. Is that enough of a habanero? I feel like that's a pretty strong bite. Would we consider this to be a strong bite, people? I think that's pretty significant. I mean, if people say I'm a wuss, then I suppose I can take more. Okay, here we go. Oh wait, I gotta think of a story to tell. Yeah, I got one. Okay, here we go. Oh my lord, that is hot as hell. Holy Jesus. Okay. I was thinking about earlier. Woo! When they're showing like different things of people in Bethel, how messed up it is that Bethelites don't get more vacation days. So like my brother, when he was at Bethel, you know, it was based on seniority, like how. Oh, okay, swallowed it. That's a good start. That's a good start. But I was thinking about how, like, you're doing a volunteer work. What is this foolery about you get, like, set amount of vacation days? Isn't that just, like, completely messed up? It's like if your family wants to come into town and hang out with you, and they've gone all the way across the country just to spend some time because they haven't seen you potentially in years. They have to, you know, work around these very, very, very few vacation days that you get. And remember, they're working 6 days a week. At least that's when he was there. Or it was 6 days a week. Yeah, you only got Saturdays off, 2 Saturdays a month off. And those Saturdays you had to be going out in service because you had to be getting your hours too. Okay, here we go. Bite number 2. What is a habanero? Was that like 50 million Scoville? Oh my god, the second one's way worse. Holy shit. I think I got some seeds in this one. I don't know if I'm swallowing this one, team. Oh boy. Okay, hold on. Habanero Scoville rating. No, that's not accurate. This says it's only 350,000. Whew. That can't be accurate. This is at least like 20 million, I think. Yeah, that's 20 million Scoville for sure. And it doesn't get better. Whew, I'm okay. Does coffee help? Okay, I'm gonna go eat some cottage cheese. This has been terrible, but I do it for you, the people. Goodbye.